Greetings, Crestkill community. Dr. Peter Hughes here, your superintendent, and tonight we're going to be discussing the Crestkill K through 12 health education standards. Mr. Roth and I will be making this short video to give you an overview of your grade level's curriculum, as well as some things that you need to be made aware of. The purpose of this presentation is really threefold. It's to give you accurate information regarding the new updated New Jersey Student Learning Standards, to provide an overview of the grade level curriculum, and finally to help you decide if you would like to have your child opt out of any of the standards. It is your right as a parent in Crestkill school districts. In fact, when we look back at the history of sex education in New Jersey, it's a right that's existed since the 1980s. That is not changing. If there's ever anything that you're uncomfortable with in the health standards, we can certainly adapt your child's exposure and make sure that you're part of that decision-making process. I also wanted to highlight some changes that have come out in 2018-19, just as an overview. There's been a lot of focus more on sexting, consent, and safe haven included inside of the health standards to make sure that kids have a more contemporary view. Without further delay, I wanted to go into the 4 reasons for the new updated standards, and finally turn you over to Mr. Roth to review the grade level expectations. When New Jersey came together, they really wanted to include 4 items: inclusivity, making sure that the health standards were inclusive of all New Jersey residents, medically accurate, make sure that there's a focus on safety, and finally create open dialogue where kids have safe adults that they can ask questions of. In addition to the parents, but that is a piece of making sure that we have a partnership of support for the kids. Without further delay, here's Mr. Roth.
Hello, first grade families. Today, I'd just like to touch upon the units of study in first grade health. There are 5 units, the first of which is a unit on physical safety. In this unit, students will be able to identify and make healthy choices related to indoor and outdoor safety. So teachers and students will be practicing learning, recognizing safety strategies, and discussing safe and healthy choices. So some examples of how that would play out in the classroom: it would be safety regarding using particular equipment on the playground, being able to understand the importance of wearing bike helmets when at home, vehicle safety, safety related to how to cross a street appropriately, water safety, and certain weather forms of safety that can protect us from incidences of being out in the sun too long and how we might need to hydrate ourselves. We will also cover, teachers will cover traffic safety, bicycle safety, basic fire safety at home and in the classroom, safety that relates to poisons, and the importance of how to always check with a parent or a guardian before ingesting certain things at home that may not be part of the common everyday foods we eat, and basic accident prevention. As well, there'll be a development and awareness of warning symbols and their meaning. So, for example, what a red light means, what a stop sign means, and poison symbols. From there, students would move on to the second course of study, and that would be Unit 2, which is caring for our family. In this unit, a basic definition of reproduction would be offered to the students, just on a simple level of that being a process of producing offspring or babies. Explaining ways in which parents may care for their offspring, so different kinds of parents and how they care for their young ones, animals, people, and fish. Describing different kinds of families that are around us locally, in our classroom, around our country and globe, and noting similar ways in which they keep children safe. Examples of that: some children come from families with 2 parents. Some children come from families with single parents. Some children come from families where they are taken care of and cared for by their grandparents. Some children grow up in homes where there's a divorce and they spend different amounts of time at each parent's home. So just understanding that it's okay that our classroom and our world contains different kinds of families, and no one definition has to govern them all. And determining factors that contribute to healthy relationships within a family. So things like how basic communication and care contribute to a healthy family. From there, first graders go into Unit 3, which is called Me and My Emotions. There, the explanation is offered to the meaning of character, a person's character, and how it's reflected in their thoughts and feelings and their actions. So, for example, what it means to have a kind character and how we draw that conclusion about a person based on their behaviors. A generous character, what an honest character means. Students also, in relation to their emotions, cover demonstrating self-control in varied settings. So, for example, in the classroom, on the playground, in different special programs, whether that be after-school enrichment, etc. They also identify situations that might result in people feeling sad or angry or frustrated or scared, some of the more challenging experiences of emotions that we feel all the time as human beings. And identifying in that regard individuals who can help us with how to express our feelings in a successful and positive way. So family members that may help us, teachers, counselors, and medical professionals. From there, in Unit 4, the first graders will study a unit called Relationships All Around Us. They will demonstrate healthy ways, or with their teacher will demonstrate healthy ways to respond to disagreements or conflicts with others. So, for example, learning things about leaving a situation when that might seem the best way to prevent conflict, or how to talk to trusted adults with help, how to tell a sibling or a peer, all different ways that we could explore to resolve or prevent conflict and disagreement from escalating. As well, here within the standards, we find an effort to really curb certain behaviors. So the definitions are offered in regard to bullying and teasing and explaining why they are wrong and harmful and the impact that they have on others around us. And finally, Grade 1 Health will round out with a unit on disease and medicine. This will continue to build on things learned in kindergarten, so it will be demonstrations offered in regard to personal hygiene and the use of necessary and appropriate health-enhancing behaviors that can keep a person healthy. So examples would be precautions you take to avoid illnesses, again, like coughing into your arm, how to handle food in a hygienic manner, the importance of brushing your teeth and engaging in regular physical activity, getting adequate sleep, dressing appropriately for various conditions. So just wearing a coat and bringing one to school when we know we're going to be going outside for recess. As well, things will be covered like explaining the consequences on a person's health if he or she does not have adequate food and a clean environment, and identifying community professionals and school personnel who address health emergencies and provide reliable health information to us.
Hi, everyone. Now that you know a little bit about that grade level's specific units, it's important to talk about any controversies that exist in the K to second grade band. And it's also important to understand the context of how it's taught for us. The first thing that may be controversial in the K to second grade standards is defining reproduction. We talk about it in the classrooms as being how do parents take care of a baby, how does a mama bear take care of a cub, and how living things can make more living things. For example, bacteria in your hands can reproduce to create more bacteria that make us sick. So it's important when we talk about hygiene about the idea of removing the bacteria because they can reproduce. That's what reproduction means to us in K through second grade bands. The second thing that comes up is some of the gender norms that may come about. And this really comes around preventing stereotypes of girl and boy activities and making sure that all children feel comfortable exploring whatever their interests are. Let's talk about what that looks like. What are different ways that people like to dress? Does everybody dress the same? Why is it important to dress and represent who you are? What are things that people like to do? Does everybody have to like the same things? Do things people like to do have to be boy things or girl things? Or are they really just neutral things? Can girls play with Legos? Girls do not have to be nurses. Boys do not have to be doctors. These are the types of things that are conditioning to prevent any stereotypes from playing out. And it's a way of making sure that our kids have more access, not less. This is also a fact. Gender identity is never talked about in K through second grade. It's not a topic typically. So there's a lot of misinformation out there about pronouns and kids. And the reality is that is not where we go with this. The third thing that we would talk about in the kindergarten to second standards is use of medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals. We use correct terminology because it's important to be factual with kids, and it does come up naturally in conversation with kids when they have questions. What does this look like? We talk about playing outside helps our hearts and lungs work together. So talking about the actual organs that make us function as humans. Putting good food into our bodies, it helps our bodies grow. And using scientific names such as stomach, penis, vagina, we use the scientific names consistently. And there's a reason for this. It helps students develop a more positive body image. It also allows children to be more willing to ask questions with more accurate names. And it also helps students who deal with or are exposed to abuse accurately describe the trauma. So it's really a measure to prevent child abuse to a certain degree. So these are some of the reasons that those terms are used. It's not that we're trying to draw attention to it, it's that they come up naturally in topics. Thank you. Now that you've taken the time to learn about that grade level's standards, as well as some of the controversial areas, it's important to now show you how we plan on getting the opt-out forms filled out. You as parents have the opportunity now to access the opt-out forms. They'll be coming out prior to us teaching the curriculum. And they're going to look like the following. This is an example for kindergarten, Unit 1. The first thing on the form, it's going to be a Google form, and you just list the student's first and last name, followed by a unit description that gives you some background information about the unit and the actual standards that are taught in that unit. If you chose to opt your child out of any of these standards, your child would simply go and do independent reading in another room. That's the plan for alternative environments for the kids. And then finally, we will be hosting a parent night for us to get deeper into some of the discussions and answer some of the questions. We do ask that if you have questions specifically, that you submit them online. You can use this QR code. I've also included a link in my letter. On February 15th at 6 p.m., we are going to be hosting a Health and PE parent night for those of you who want to come out and hear some of the answers to those questions. We're still working on the location. It's to be determined. It will likely be over in Merritt, but we are not certain of the location as of now. So thank you so much for taking the time to view this video, and we look forward to helping answer any questions going forward. Thank you.